as we start looking at using the Smartboard, which is a wonderful tool that all of our teachers now have an option to use, we want to build those lessons with the idea in mind that the Smartboard is the tool that's going to enhance and put a little pop or bang into the lessons that we're going to be presenting within the listening and learning domain. When we look at those lessons, we know that the most important thing that we're doing within those lessons is teaching the children background knowledge and vocabulary. This is not the time to teach how to read. We are teaching vocabulary at this time, but we're not teaching how to read. We're not teaching the sounds. We're teaching background knowledge and vocabulary so that when children come to the decoding part of reading, they will be able to attach meaning to those words that they are decoding. That's the reading process. So what we'll see is in these lessons, we're going to have a limited amount of text showing on the screen. We want the children attaching meaning to the vocabulary that they hear orally, and then being able to respond using that vocabulary with pictures, videos, etc. as a supplement to that vocabulary. An interesting point to think about is that as our children are entering school, all of the research tells us that the children with the highest level of vocabulary knowledge, listening and speaking vocabulary, are going to do the best in learning how to read. So, an interesting point that much of the research points to is that at age 3, some children have been exposed to 45 million vocabulary words. Many different, some repeated, but 45 million. There's another group of students that as they reach that age 3, they have been exposed to 26 million vocabulary words. And another very large group of children who, when they reach age 3, have only been exposed to 13 million. What a difference, 45 million to 13 million. Those students who have been exposed to the 45 million words are going to do better when it comes time to learn how to read. The purpose of the listening and learning strand through core knowledge is to help those students who have been exposed to the 26 million and the 13 million and help them to build their background knowledge and their vocabulary so that they can learn to read just as easily and just as well as the students who have been exposed to 45 million. Larissa Uceda and Kathleen Eisenberg and myself have worked together to create a template for a model Smartboard lesson for Grade 1, Domain 6, Astronomy. Today we're going to talk about the parts of that lesson and how it would be used in the classroom. As you can see, this is the first screen at the beginning. We've included the learning targets, and as you know, in the lesson they're listed as the core content objectives. To make it easier for all the grades, 3, 5, and K2, we are changing to learning targets. Right, so learning targets, we have them posted, and they can be drawn right across so that the students can read so the students can see the target. They're not reading the target. The teacher is reading the target. That's what we're working towards in this particular lesson. We would like the students at the end of this lesson to be able to answer what these targets were. And they'll all come straight across. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Another part of the lesson, along with those learning targets, and of course we are still including the language arts targets, which have to do with speaking in complete sentences, talking with your partner, responding to think, pair, share. Those are worked on throughout the lesson. we are moving to the part of the lesson that on this particular one, because this is the first lesson of this domain, we're going to introduce it. So we're going to ask some questions. We're going to ask the students about what they see in the sky. We're going to tell them about astronomy, you know, the study of outer space. So we're going to ask the students, what is the big, warm, bright object we see in the sky during the day? And as they answer, and probably they're going to say it's the sun, we can reveal a picture of the sun. Now, we wouldn't want to show that first. We want to make sure that they are listening to our questions and responding, and then reinforcing with the picture. The next question we would ask is, what is the big glowing object we can see in the sky at night? And someone will tell us the moon. And we'll say, yes, you're right, it's the moon. And sometimes it looks like this, and sometimes it doesn't. But we're going to talk about that later in our lessons. The next thing that we would ask is, what are those small twinkly lights we see in the sky at night? And chances are somebody will tell us the stars. So now we've been able to use the smartboard to reinforce the questions that we asked. We got the answers verbally, and we've attached pictures to them. An excellent way to reinforce that vocabulary and those questions. We move on to the next part. The next part is a part of the lesson because, again, this is the beginning of this domain, and the actual lesson asks you to have a globe in hand. Not every classroom has that at this time, but we certainly can have it with the smartboard, and I think you'll like what we've been able to come up with. The students are being asked to understand that the globe can show us where we live. It starts as a big sphere, and we're going to take it in step by step, from the big sphere to North America, to the United States, to New York, to Rochester. Now, the IT department has been wonderful in setting this up for us. There are 3 options on this. Option 1, for those people that are very technical savvy, you certainly can do your own, plug in the address and get that, no problem. Option 2, is a little bit more. You have to do a little bit more with it. But if you want just a very simple, this is where we are. Oh, and I can also, on this one, you can do the spin. And you can work along with those things. You can make that go in a little bit more with that. You have to be not quite as savvy as the first one. This is my favorite. Where are we? Where are we? There's our Earth spinning, rotating. And this gives a little bit of time for you to talk about what's happening, where we are. There's North America, and you could point that out to the kids. We're focusing in. There's the United States. You see the little red dot? That is Rochester. We're going to focus in a little bit more. There's all of our states. As we continue in, there's Rochester. And it will take us right down to a street. What a wonderful thing. You can't do that on the regular globe, but you can do it with this. Excellent. So you have 3 choices on that.